Hey everyone, this is Antonio. Just a note before we start this episode, I want to apologize for the sound quality of this show today. We had some technical glitches, which we're still trying to figure out, and we couldn't do anything about it for this episode, but we promise that we'll try to fix it for the next one. So please forgive us for the sound quality in this one and enjoy the show anyway. Thanks.
Be still with yourself until the object of your attention affirms your presence.
It is a rare photographer who can take a detached, cold-blooded view of his work. Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio. And this is episode 221 for the middle of December 2024 and area code 221. Hello, Houston. We have a problem. We can't stop doing area codes. Now, before the show, I'm like always looking up like, what is this area code? Actually, when I first did it, it gave me a country code for like some other the country was. And I was like, wait a minute. No, I don't think that's right. It's like, it was in Senegal. What the hell? It was some other place. Actually, is it a country code? How can it be country code 3 digits? I thought country codes were.
I actually don't have any idea. No.
Maybe I was getting it wrong from my AI search in my browser, my Brave browser. I was having an hallucination. So I finally had to ask the right question. Yes. Hello, Houston.
Hello, Houston.
221. Yes. For those, as we rotate the dial around, finding all the different area codes. So anyway, yeah. Hi, everybody. This is the middle of December.
Middle of December.
Yeah. Middle of December, right? Shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head?
The countdown.
Of what? Of 2025?
Of the whole Christmas and total darkness for, 18 hours of the day. And
we'll make it through. We're going to talk about that later somehow, but
all right.
We'll make it through. Yeah. So what have you been up to? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Work has been good. Still working on my notes for Japan.
You're really getting those. You're getting serious with the notes there. I mean, you want to really.
Yeah.
I mean,
I bought a book, and we can talk about that later. Yeah,
okay.
I bought a book
that
right. Japan associated with.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talk about books now, or
no. Keep going. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about them a little bit later. Just we get the general. We ease into this a little bit. Everybody has to know how you're doing.
Yeah. So just working on that and thinking about it a lot, and I'm gonna be as prepared as I can be.
Okay. And offline, you said that your country is having a postal strike now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's good for you. You won't be able to order any books.
No, because they come by courier.
Okay. Darn it. I was thinking, okay. All right.
Even the camera store. I mean, this book I bought was at the camera store. I was like,
Okay. All right.
So yeah, there's no way to curb that urge when you're walking up and down the aisle there in the camera store.
Well, so wait, for the postal strike is happening now before Christmas?
Now. Yes.
Oh no. I just thought about that. That has got to be, it's
horrendous. All the small businesses that use Canada Post, it's terrible.
And FedEx and UPS must be having an awesome day, but they probably don't have enough people. Well,
there's some complications there in certain places where small business can afford to use them. They've had a real spike in use, and it's causing them
delays,
issues with delays. So, and now I understand the U.S. Postal Service has now stopped shipments, like postal shipments to Canada.
Wow.
So now our American cousins are having to stockpile mail headed for Canada. So,
wow,
it's a nightmare.
And especially for before Christmas, everybody who's ordering stuff for gifts, that's it, right? They're not going to get it. Well, how long has the strike been on for?
I want to say a month.
Really? Sorry for laughing, but a month?
No, but this is
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where have I been not paying attention to this?
It's our little banana republic up here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm obviously it affects your our artificial sponsor somehow.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. But I think my Canadian customers know that there's probably, because I believe I say on the website that I use Canada Post. So if they're going in and I see folks going in and looking at product, but they're not ordering, and that's fair.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I do offer courier at their cost, but with a lens that cost effective, why would you pay $20 for whatever?
Well, I'm sorry that this is happening, and I hope that gets solved at some point soon.
I do too. It's affecting a lot of people across the country.
Yeah. Well, gosh, what else have been? It's been, as we're getting into the winter's photography stuff. Anything? Cameras picking them up?
No, I'm just I mean, I told you about that little flash. So I've been playing around with it.
Yeah. You shared a picture of it. Yeah. So
it's very cute. It works.
Describe it. Tell us the model number and stuff like that.
I think it's pronounced Godox, not Godox.
I mean, like God.
Yeah, because the translated characters in Chinese is Godox. Godox Lux Junior, it's called. It's powered by 2 AAAs and has a guide number, I think, of 29, something like that, at ISO 100. So it has a little bit more kick. It has a really small, it's not the actual reflector part of the flash is a little bit bigger, maybe 3 times as big as the one that's on my XS20 flip up flash. So it's a little broader light than that, but it's
I'm looking at the picture of it now. Wow. Yeah. It's got a big,
but the actual flash part of it is just a little,
right in the center,
a little bit part. Yeah. Center, like offset. It's directly above the hot shoe mounting. Right.
I see.
So it's the way it is. So it looks like it's a broad flash, but it's really just that little. It
just has a lot of reflector in it. I see.
Yeah. And it seems to work fine at light. I mean, I've been playing around just in the house lighting, like it's supposed to have a 24 or 28 millimeter coverage. But I've been using the 16, and it's been fine. The little vignetting, like I want that effect.
The little vignetting on the edges,
that's nice. Around the edges,
that's nice. Yeah.
And with the close subjects that I'm contemplating shooting with, if I shoot with that 16, I think they'll be great. So harsh light with the black and white and my post. I think I'm going to get somewhere with that.
And how much did that run you, if I may ask?
It cost me $70 Canadian, which would be $58 USA.
Really? I got to put that on my list of things to recommend to people, because it seems like a nice little thing that you could stick in a bag.
It's just a couple of AA batteries, so the refresh, like the recycle time, is a little bit longer than I think you and I would be used to with our big speed lights that we usually have. So if you're fine with that, like it does actually have it has a slave mode too, actually.
Oh, really?
It senses another flash. It's got 2 slave modes, one that flashes right away and one that flashes on the second flash.
Oh, okay. But your XE3 doesn't have a built-in flash, right? So you'd have to use some sort of commander thing, right, to fire it off.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a Godox trigger, and I've got other things I can do. And it's got a little plug-in for a PC cable, so we can use it on our twin lens. Told my son if he wants to borrow it and use it with his twin lens, he could do that too.
I would imagine with a twin lens, it would be kind of weird. It might, because it's a horizontal flash. So how well would it work with the square format?
Well, you're mounting the cold shoe on the twin lenses on the side, and so it's a square format. So I don't think it's going to hurt. What's the coverage of an 80 millimeter lens, right? I think it's equivalent to about 50. So I think you're good.
Yeah.
And leaf shutter, right? He can use whatever shutter speed he wants.
So we're geeking out. We're geeking out about flashes.
Well, I haven't played with flash in a long time. It's just getting up to speed, right?
Flash is like they could run a whole class just on like trying to teach people how to use flash properly. And there's still things I'd like to learn about it that I forget all the time. And I one time took a class with Joe McNally, and he did the whole class was on his speed lights. I was using the Nikon SB, whatever it was, the 28s at the time or something like that. And his like his whole like production, traveling is like with, I don't know, like he had a dozen of these things set up, and he was sort of, well, he still is a master of like controlling the light on these little things. And he also had some sort of cool bracket that he was selling under his name, which now you could buy. I can't even remember to describe it, but now you could probably just buy it, at B&H for $5,
Okay.
made by some, company overseas. But it was something, I can't remember what it did, but I was like, oh, that's a really cool thing. Like I should get one of those things. But yeah, to do lighting with speed lights, like, rather than like a, big heavy duty strobes means, I don't know. It's like, I think there's a real art to that. And, to be able to remember and how to figure out how to do all this stuff. It's just, so there's stuff.
Tiny Flash has 7 power settings, and it's got a little dial on the back where you point the power setting to the distance, and it tells you what aperture to use in manual mode. So it's kind of cute. Like, it takes some, thinking up front, but well, I think it'll be a real party to use. So I'm looking forward to it.
On the picture that you sent, which I'll probably have to put in the show notes now because we're talking about it, but it looks like like it fits your camera nicely with that lens hood on it and this light. It looks very, I want to say it looks retro, obviously, but there's something really classic about that look. It's not this big speed light with the bendy head on it with a big, diffuser on it or something like that. Like you're about to shoot a wedding. This looks like something you'd be carrying around in like the late 60s someplace or something, So for 50 something bucks, that's pretty good. So maybe I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, I kind of wish I was selling them.
Yeah. Well, I'll put an affiliate link on Amazon, and maybe if anybody wants to buy it, I'll get like 8 cents for it or something, whatever Amazon does. All right, cool. I'll be really excited to see. Actually, have you done any tests with it?
I have just around the house and the dog. I haven't really.
The dog,
done.
The dog's like, what are you flashing me for?
He's the reluctant muse.
Yeah, well, you need to try it on some people somewhere. Maybe.
Yeah, because the red eyes of the dog, the green eyes.
Yeah,
of the dog,
well, you can fix that. That's easy to fix. But
I know, but
yeah, that lens is pretty close to the center line of the lens, so you might end up getting a lot of red eye in that. Anyway,
well,
whatever.
It'll be white eye.
White eye. Which will look really cool in black and white. I agree.
Absolutely, it'll have kind of a Blade Runner thing going.
Yeah. Boy. Okay. Well. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. I hate to admit this, but I ordered the XM5.
Oh, you did? You video freak?
Yeah. I ordered it. It's not going to come in until like, 2026, so or whatever at this point. So it does give me a lot of time to even double think about this. Like, do we really want it? And, after looking at your, it's not the XE series, but all the reviews I've been reading about it, and it just being a little content making camera and, interchangeable lenses and all this. I don't know. And so I ordered a silver one. That would be my first silver Fuji. So I thought it would look kind of cool. So I might have to get a flash like this on it or something like that too, just to copy you, just to be a copycat in some way.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But
I'm cool with that.
I keep getting emails from B&H saying, we don't know when it's going to ship. I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. It's not something that I'm really, worried about getting right away. But
you just call that guy Bob, in the back in customer service.
Yeah, that's right. Put me on the list.
Where's my XM?
Yeah. Well, Fuji will surprise us because that's how I got my X106 or VI, I should say. I'm not going to go into that debate right now, but they emailed me and said it was going to come in October, and it ended up. It was going to come in October, and it showed up 2 months before that. So I was pretty happy about that. Anyway, but yeah, that's on the. That's in the running in the background, and I'm probably going to end up selling some of my stuff. So I want to start getting rid of.
That's another conversation we need to have.
What? Oh, right, because you want to buy a lens, right? Yeah.
I want to buy a lens, but don't send it to me through the post office.
No. Right, you're gonna have to figure out how to get that to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ox cart, I think. Might work.
I'll
dog
send it in
sled.
pieces. Yeah, and put it back
Yeah.
together again. I could transport it.
Put it on the Greyhound.
Yeah. But my photography's been kind of slow these days. The past couple of weeks since my new girlfriend split, we spent a lot of time being tourists. So I lent her my Fuji XT20 with the 18 to 55 lens on it, which is still one of my favorite lenses.
That's a good starting kit right there.
Yeah. Well, that's actually the lens I got with that camera. When I bought that as a kid, it came with the. Sorry, I just heard a weird voice. It might have been my Hey Lady person. You know, nope, it was what's her name? It begins with an A and ends with an A and LEX in the middle. Yeah. But I had my headphones on, so I heard a voice. I was like, there's someone in the room with me. Anyway, yeah, so she used that and she knew what she was doing. She knows cameras, which was cool. I haven't downloaded the pictures yet, but it was fun to be a tourist in my own city with cameras and stuff like that. But I still haven't downloaded the pictures. I got all these pictures on my X100 because that was a nice camera to carry around with me. But you know what? Most of the stuff I did was on my phone. Surprisingly, I mean, that's really the fill in for, point and shoot and stuff like that. And it's just, the quality is just really good. And although I did take selfies with my X100F, X106 VI.
Yeah.
Sorry,
get it straight.
I know. I'm not going to get it. And they were pretty good, actually, because I wanted this shallower depth of field, and I just wanted that look. And so I did some selfies in front of the Manhattan Bridge. There's a street down there called is it Washington Street or something like that? And it's like they had to close it off because now everybody goes there and takes a picture with the Manhattan Bridge in the background. And you go there and just everybody's taking pictures. And so, well, we're tourists, so let's do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, started taking pictures of ourselves, but I used the X100 and those pictures came out nice. So anyway, I got a lot of pictures to download. So
cool.
So yeah, nothing. I haven't done any downloading and stuff like that. I was sort of circling the wagons, winter kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I should be going out and taking more pictures. I do have classes coming up, so that sort of gets me sparked. Tomorrow I've got a class at the library, and it's a photojournaling class. So that's always a fun class to teach because I don't know if I've described it to you here before, but what we actually did
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I do is basically it's a little geeking out with the materials and stuff, but then I want to talk to them about prompts and stuff like that. And I grab a bunch of pictures, historic pictures, and I made little prints of them. And the idea is at the sort of there's a time when everybody can start to write in the journals. Plus I give everybody a journal and a fountain pen so that nobody comes unprepared. They can all write in it. And in my handout, I think I made about 20 different pictures, right? So there's a lot of famous pictures the Irving Penn picture of, Picasso and of my pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge and, a few others. So I mean, there's a total of 20. Oh, Dorothea Lange's the migrant mother and whatever. And I give them QR codes that I linked to pages that were associated with them. And I give them a choice to either write about the pictures just sight unseen, like they may know about them already. Basically, I put all these pictures on the table and say, everybody grab, a couple and just write about them for about 15 or 20 minutes. But I do give them the opportunity to go and look at the websites on their phone. So if they want to get a context of the image ahead of time, so I kind of encourage that because, for me, I'm really about the photography history part. And I think it's useful to know at least some context, but it's not necessary. So people just grab it and they tape them into their books and they start writing. And then, when we wrap up, it's like just telling everybody, hey, what were the thoughts? Where did you go with these pictures and stuff like that? So
cool.
So that's tomorrow night. And then I've got my regular digital photography classes coming up. I've got actually I keep wanting to say remote, a Zoom class, which I thought we were sort of moving out of. So it's just a basic photography Zoom class on Saturday, which maybe Saturday will be lousy weather here, so people will be, apt to be indoors. So, but that's okay. Yeah, that's all I'm doing. And yeah, we were speaking of books before during the week that Angie was here. We did a bunch of museums, and I cannot remember where I got this book. I think this might have been at the Brooklyn Museum. So I found a book on Gordon Parks there.
Oh, right.
It's called Segregation Story, and it's by Steidl. And I thought I would do an unboxing, an unwrapping here
for an audio unboxing.
Yeah, so
nice
for the ASMR freaks in there, right? Here's the unwrapping of the plastic, right?
You heard it here first, folks.
There we go. Here, I'll even crinkle the plastic. There, okay.
It sounds like a campfire.
Everybody's happy, right? I'm ashamed to say I don't have any of his books until now. And this is his color work, right? So
yeah.
Here, I'll do the flipping of the pages too.
It looks like a lot of pages for...
it's 170... Oh, wait, no. Sorry, I cut it short. It's about 200 pages. There's the first 20 pages are text with some photographs. Essays by, let's see, people who I don't know. There's a foreword written by Executive Director of the Gordon Parks Foundation, Peter W. Kundhart Jr.
Okay.
And Mikhail Raz Russo. Okay. So this is going to be an education because I don't know anything. And then a couple of essays in here, but they're all color pictures. Right? I don't really think I've seen a lot of his color pictures. Of course, the cover is this incredible shot of looks like a family in front of some store with water fountains, and one says white only, and the other one says colored only, but it's covered up by a little girl who's drinking water. And it's pretty, I can't believe we were like this once. And then there's all these posters in the background, like lickety split, banana split, and butter pecan, and like all these signs in a window for like ice cream and stuff like that. And then there's this fountain that says white only, and these little girls are drinking from the other one. Yeah. But it's like this almost faded Kodachromy style work. It's really beautiful stuff. So I'm going to look forward to this book. I've sort of toned down on my book purchases lately, as I am running out of shelf space, but I definitely look forward to reading this. So do you have any Gordon Parks books? I'm sure you do.
I do. I have that selected works. It's 5 books.
Is that still available?
No.
Oh.
And it's worth a fortune now if you want to try and get it.
No, I'm not going to. Yeah.
It's a 5-volume set that was meant for a reference for libraries and things like that. And it was heavily subsidized. The idea was that it was supposed to go to boys and girls clubs and libraries around the country. And it ended up all of them being snapped up by collectors.
Of course. Which is not really the point, right? The whole point of it.
But it's cherished. Like it's, I mean, you go through, it's an event to open up one of those volumes and go through it. It's basically a chronology of his career with some thoughtful essays along with it. And with the Steidl book, the images they're second to none. They're amazing, beautiful, deep, black and white. I don't think there's any color in there. I could be wrong. Some of the later ones may have. You know what? I'm sure there'll be some of that work that's in your volume there. I'm sure are in that book as well. But yeah, it's very good.
I'm looking through it, and there's some scans of what looks like captions or stories on the rolls of film, like Rolly 1, Roll 43. This roll contains the retake of Joanne Thornton Wilson and her niece, Shirley Diane Curtsey, daughter of Mrs. Allie Lee Thornton, Curtsey Causey, as they look for change as they prepare to enter the colored entrance at Mobile's Stanger Theater. The segregation system here provides that Negroes and whites do not come in or leave by any passageway that would put them in close physical proximity. I don't know when this was when this was written. It's a typewritten page that's scanned.
Yeah.
And there's there's like one page here of like slides done in a contact sheet form too. I'm just showing it to you here, but
Oh yeah.
yeah. So this looks like I really want to.
It's a historical document. It looks great.
Yeah. It's
sobering.
Yeah. And it's a style book, so it's definitely quality stuff. So anyway, that's what I got this week. Excuse me. That's what I got this week in my books. So I'm pretty happy about it. So anyway, you're gonna say you said you got a book.
I got a book. So trying to get in the mind of Japanese photography. I do have Daido Moriyama book. I have the Tetsuo Suzuki. Yeah, well, I just have the little Thames and Hudson. It's like a little trade paperback thing. It's got his selected works. Okay. You know, maybe 80 pages or 100 pages. It's great. It's like you want to sit down, have a discussion. Who was Daido Moriyama? Here, look at this, then we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it's like one of those.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book that came out in 2014. They've reissued it, and I don't know who published it, but I see there's a store in Tokyo that has it in stock. So but it's 600 pages. It's huge. It's like a coffee table thing. I might not. It's like going to be like $100, you know, and it'd be much cheaper to buy it there and bring it in my check bag or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
well, but weighs your bag over the limit of.
Well, I'm not a shopper, so I try to travel light. But the book I did buy is interesting, as it's not the later like 70s and 80s, you know, stark high contrast street photography of those guys, of Tetsuo Suzuki and Daido Moriyama. This is a young guy at the time. The book's called East Beats, Osaka, 1964 to 1970. The photographer is Yoshihiro Suzuki. And his story, and it was his son that got this off the ground a few years ago. His dad had moved from the country into Osaka, and as a 21-year-old, got a job as I guess a salaryman, the way he's described. And with one of his first paychecks, he bought a Minolta SR1, circa 1959, I think, is when those cameras came out. Anyway, so he started just shooting around Osaka on his way to work and around the trains and when he would go shopping and all that kind of stuff. And it's a great document of the time, like 64 to 70, that 6-7 year period when he was a young man, pointing his camera at the people walking by and the backs of the woman's sweater and the handbag that she's carrying and some of the people and some young women giggling and a little smear, a little unintentional camera movement. It's just a wonderful young man's kind of shy exploration of a big city from an outsider's point of view. One of the themes of my Japan trip is, and what I learned from Mexico is I can't live there. I can't be one of them. I can't really feel like I'm shooting like a local. Here's a Japanese gentleman who came as a young man and shot in. From my feeling going through the book, he's still sort of an outsider and he's a young guy and he's taking pictures of all these older people and, you know, and the storefronts and the movie posters and all that kind of stuff. And he brings the time and the place really well. And it's 288 pages. It's a lot of pictures. And it's not the high contrast stuff. It's mostly black and white. And in the middle, there's maybe 20 or 30 color images that are just this wonderful, warm kind of break in the book of, you know, the buses parked on the motorway or whatever in the parking lot below where he's shooting. And there's this blue light, this kind of cloudy look to it. And there's some other warm stuff of streets and intersections and things like that. So I think it's great. And it's very loose. The way I think I described to you in the chat when I told you I got it was really, you know, loose and a little shy. I like that. And it's a little bit different. He's not Winogrand and he's not like Friedlander or one of these guys, very specific, right? He's just like, I'm going to see, can I get this picture? Can I get the, you know, like it's a different It's a different mindset, and it's wonderful because it's like kind of the outsider's look at the city that he's living in. So
How is it that he's setting himself up, or that you see him as an outsider? Like, what's
just the kind of glancing, well, I call the pictures glancing blows. Like he's just pointed the camera, and it just feels like he's hoping for the moment, and he's just happening to get it.
Okay.
It seems like every picture is like that, except the ones that are more formal, where he's got, the storefront or the vegetable stand, where it's just very formal and all the bins are there with all the signs with the prices and everything. Those are like, there's no people, or very few people. Well, there's no people in those images. And then when he's out on the street, it's just sort of the camera, he's shooting from the hip, or he's, he's a little covert. And what's nice about that era is people aren't really aware or have any kind of wariness that you're photographing them. And so you'll get like dead on stares from businessmen and women and so on walking in the street. And so there's a kind of innocence in it too, which I appreciate. Like I say, it's loose. It's not like a, here's what I'm trying to say about my city. It's not that. It's just these little passing glances, which I think it's wonderful. And it's like a young man's perspective. It's not this kind of, zero in like Bruce Gilden, or aesthetically interesting and making, thought provoking like a Winogrand. It's like, it's a young man walking around taking pictures.
You think you're going to be approaching your trip like what he
more like he is? That? And the reason why I got that book is that it's sort of, it's more the way I think I would be shooting there. Like I think it would be between this and my Stampede Midway, if I'm taking pictures of people. And I'm not just going to be taking pictures of people, but the people that I do take pictures of will be in between this and my Stampede Midway pictures. So I'll be, I'll be in between. It won't be quite as loose as Suzuki's, but it won't be as composed or gotcha as the Stampede pictures are. So just all this, I'm trying to keep all these balls in the air while I'm getting ready to go for this trip.
I'm impressed always by, or at least, I mean, not always, because this is the first trip I think I know you, like, you went to Mexico before we were hooked up on this show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the first trip I know that since we've started working on the show together, and I'm impressed by the amount of preparation that you're doing for this. And like, I don't think none of this would occur to me if I'm traveling someplace, but it's interesting how you're appring it.
I tried to do it a little bit before I came to New York, right?
Yeah, but you already had some of that already, right? Because you've already collecting a lot of books and stuff. Like, you already had New York on your mind in general, right?
Yeah, and I did get, I think I did sort of get what I wanted in terms of subject matter and stuff. Like the first day I got that bench picture. I mean, come on, like steps away from where Winogrand shot the chimpanzee. Like, oh man, that was very fulfilling. So yeah, I guess you're right. I was able to get those hits, I suppose.
Yeah.
But this, I don't want to be completely strange.
No,
when I go
got
over
you.
there.
Yeah, I get it.
And all I want to do is have those 4 buckets of kind of subject matter ideas in my head.
I'm not judging you on this or anything.
No. I'm just
saying, like,
But the prep I'm doing is just that all I have to do is walk around and shoot, and I don't have to go. And then I'm not bowled over by, oh my God, I didn't know about this. And
right.
I didn't want to do that. And I kind of was like that in Mexico, right? So I'm trying to.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you have all that tucked away already. You're in the sense the studying and prep ahead of time, and then you're just not having to worry about it when you get there. Yeah. Okay.
And I've got less time. Well, I've got a couple of days more actually in Japan than I did in Mexico. So
all right. That's cool. All right. So you're gonna have to. We need the link to that book as well, because I want to take a look at it, and certainly link for the show notes and stuff.
Like I say, it's loose, right? It's not quite as formal as these other photographers we've been
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
So I think it's wonderful. I think it's.
How did you find this book?
It was on the bookshelf at the camera store.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know anything about it until I went.
Okay.
I went through it, and I'm like, I think this was great.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's got a dust jacket on it that's clear, that has bright orange lettering on it. And it's very striking. And with the kanji and the English on it, it's wonderful.
Okay. All right. Cool. When you were describing what's the photographer's name again? I'm not going to remember.
Yoshihiro Suzuki.
You're describing him as this outsider in his own city, and I'm imagining this in my head. I'm just picturing this photographer walking around, and in a sense, what you were saying, shyly sort of removing himself from his own place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of ties in with what subject I kind of wanted to talk to you about tonight.
I smell a segue. This is fantastic.
Well, it was actually a good segue. I was kind of glad that you mentioned him, but let's see if I can do this segue pretty easily. That the idea of photographers being detached from what they're photographed, but yet having to be present, right? It's this sort of, I don't know if we can say almost opposite kind of being that you have to be a photographer. So this photographer that you're talking about, Suzuki, is in his own town, but is approaching it, so he's detaching himself from his own location, and yet he still has to be present in order to be able to capture or create the photographs that he's doing. And so I was thinking about this in terms of like what it means to be a photographer, especially now. Part of what I was thinking about was, we're getting into in the Northern Hemisphere here, we're getting into winter and shorter days and isolation and hibernation and all the stuff that everybody kind of, moans about, for not everybody, but a lot of people moan about, the winter times where we become more isolated, we're more homebound. And it just got me thinking about this idea of photographers photography is something that we do very much on our own. It's very much we do this by ourselves. Even if you're in a photo group or you're walking around with people, you're still kind of doing something on your own head. You're isolating in your own head.
Yeah.
And in some way you also have to be present. Well, you don't have to be, but it helps to be present when you're photographing, to be not necessarily in the zone or something like that, but being aware of what you are doing. And those two things seem almost at odds with each other. I don't know if you think that as well. So,
well, yeah, I don't want to be, if I'm putting myself in a situation, when I think of my our street photography, you want to capture what's going on and what you see, but you don't want to draw attention to yourself. So you have to be there at the same time not being there. That's sort of the way I think of it. And for me, that's a fun place to be. I get to be the observer, capturing it. I got a little secret, I'm stealing a secret. What's going on? I'm there, but I'm not there. I'm watching intently to see if I can catch something. Yeah, no, that's good.
That detachment is something that I've gone back and forth over the years with having issues with myself.
Do you mean in the moral way, like stealing things, or
both? I mean, probably why I end up creating photographs, like, photographing from the hip. To me, that is a very detached way of taking shots. But also, like, I remember a long time ago, sorry. When I was in college, or just after college, I took a class, or like a sort of an after. It was I can't remember what the class was, but it was in photojournalism, right? I was really heavily into that. And even in my last year in class, we had a couple of photojournalists pop up in the who were invited to my thesis class. Actually, author Rothstein.
Rothstein?
Yeah, Rothstein.
I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, I'm
Depends which end of the block he lives on, whether it's Stein or Steen.
Yeah. Anyway, he showed up, but also we had J. Ross Bauman. Have you heard of him?
No, I don't know. I don't think I know that name.
So J. Ross Bauman was a photojournalist. What he was pretty famous for, I can't remember any of his. I can't remember any of his specific pictures. I'm sorry, I'm slurring. I don't know why I'm also tired all of a sudden. Was he joined he made inroads into the American Nazi Party and the white supremacists.
Oh, the infiltrator.
Yeah, guy. But he was a photographer too, so he was taking pictures. But I think they made him dress up where, I remember seeing a picture of him wearing like a brown shirt with a swastika on it and stuff like that. And he was documenting them from the inside. And at some point, he had heard that some people were planning to set bombs off someplace, whether it was Washington. I can't remember exactly where. And he made the choice that he could not be quiet about it. And so he ended up turning them in and becoming state's evidence and testifying against them, I think. And so he got to the point where he could no longer be detached from the situation. He was as a photojournalist, you think that, whatever is happening is going to happen, and you don't get involved or you don't change the situation. And yet he did. But I had also heard from other photojournalists who were, in fact, I won't mention the name of the instructor I had, but it was a photographer who was taking pictures of young people, and he talked a kid out of killing himself. And I'm gonna say this wrong, so forgive me, but my mind, my sort of memory that I made up was that he somehow regretted it rather than taking the photograph. Like he got himself involved in the kid's life and talked him out of killing himself, and he might have been questioning his own, his detachment on this, whether he should have been involved or not. And if he had just been the journalist that he expected himself to be, that he would just have documented,
You have another example of that too, Sebastian Salgado.
Okay.
He's and I'd said before we went to air, that he's in between documentary and art, right? He runs his images always have a humanistic or environmental point of view,
right?
And that's the thrust of his work. But he had covered environmental disasters. He covered I think what really put him over the edge was the genocide in Congo, and there was bodies everywhere and the horrible situation, and it took a huge toll on his health and his mental health and his physical health. And so he ended up having to stop altogether and recover for months or years, move back to Brazil or Paris. He was based in Paris for years. Anyway, he had to go back home and just put his feet up and stop because he was so engaged in his subject matter that he couldn't handle it anymore. And so, and I wanted to mention too, this is documented in a movie, a documentary about him called Salt of the Earth. If we could find a link to that as well. It talks about his background. It's a wonderful, I think, slowly paced contemplation is my word again. About Salgado. And if you're a fan of Sebastian Salgado, it's wonderful because you see him as this older man. And
if you're not a fan, you should watch it anyway.
You should watch it anyway. You can become a fan. Yeah. So it's wonderful. And it was like he got too close to his subjects. He he's an empath. It was really tugging on him, pulling on him. And yeah, and those photojournalists that come back from these war-torn areas and what they go through and PTSD and everything, and you have to be the detached observer as much as you can, and at the same time capture the humanity that's happening in front of you. Right. It's a hard thing.
Yeah, because these are obviously kind of extreme cases, and photojournalism certainly is on that side of it, especially Salgado and any other photographers who do this, especially in conflict zones and stuff. But, photographers are kind of living in this two states. They're both part of the environment that they're photographing, but they're separate from it because of the camera. Mm-hmm. That the camera in front of their face, the photograph, the job or something like that is what keeps the separation, but they have to be part of this. They have to travel with the people. They have to put on the flak jackets. They have to run around. You have to be there and do this stuff. So that's really one extreme. I'm imagining that most of the people who are listening to the show are also not in that realm. No. But what I was coming back to saying about this photojournalism class that I was taking is that the reason why I really wanted to be a photojournalist. I think I might have said this in a show. Like I wanted to be like Dennis Hopper in Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I was like, he's my hero.
Yeah.
But I found in even the short little projects that I did for this class, and they were really nothing. There weren't anything even remotely related to any of these things that these other guys are doing. I found that I couldn't detach myself enough. Like in order for me to get the picture, and I was a student, so I was just learning, but I could not do the two things. I couldn't pull myself away enough and then be present enough to create the photographs. So, but that was in a journalistic form, bringing that back to kind of like, maybe what you're going to be doing in Japan and even like what I try to do around here in my own neighborhood. And I also kind of want to tie it into, I said this before, is that now that the Northern Hemisphere is getting into this, hibernation kind of thing, which automatically brings up this sort of detached separation from kind of the world a little bit. How do we reconcile these two things now? Like without being a photojournalist and just being like a photographer who wants to take pictures, are they things that need to be reconciled? I don't know.
I just something that, well, you and I being street photographers, there's, we're kind of coming to terms with living in that duality. Mm-hmm. When it comes to, winter and the separation of winter, it's interesting. There's a painter, famous painter, part of the Canadian guy who was part of what we've come in the art community to call the Group of Seven, the Canadian Group of Seven. His name was Lauren Harris, and he drew these stylized pictures that represented the Canadian North, like the extreme North above the Arctic Circle. So you had ice flows and icebergs and the tundra and these kind of stylized images. And one of the things I believe he said was one thing about being Canadian in this case was the difference between solitude and loneliness, where loneliness is the separation, the otherness, and solitude is a kind of peace in being by yourself. And his images, his paintings sort of depict that. There's a calmness, a solitude to it. And I kind of take, I'm hearing these words years and years and years ago. I kind of take that to heart, and that in the Canadian North and in Canada, there's this kind of feeling in the winter that, yes, there's all this solitude, but you can kind of find peace in it. Mm-hmm. And many of us don't. Many of us are very busy with winter activities. Our national pastime is hockey, and that's driving all over the country to go to
curling
hockey games
too.
And all the, curling is more sedate.
I know.
Curling's definitely more sedate.
I'm just so fascinated.
Some of the older folks like that.
I'm so fascinated by it, but yeah.
Well, take the shuffleboard and chess and mash them together, and that's what you're looking at.
Okay.
So I like the idea, and I like to, like, if we're thinking of solitude as being aiming towards loneliness, I try not to go there. I like the idea of solitude, and when we're walking on the street or whatever, or when we're contemplating, maybe, and when I walk the dog every evening, it's getting darker and darker, and I get home from work, it's getting darker and darker every day, and I've taken a couple of pictures actually with the phone of, the lights that shine on this freezing pond that's enclosed by a fence, and there's trees around it, and it's just this kind of ethereal look to it. Or I was taking pictures of the hoarfrost and the snow accumulated in the trees
the what
in my
frost?
neighborhood. Hoarfrost, HOAR. It's frost that collects on the branches of trees.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just say it carefully for you. We don't want to put the bleep over it.
No, I was just like, well, you spelled it out. So, and I imagined it wasn't the word that you were saying, but I just wanted to double check.
That's why I corrected it. I'm going to set it up. And this is the word. It's an actual word. Look it up.
Yep. Okay.
And so, taking pictures of these trees in the neighborhood and the kind of beauty of what's going on at the same time, the darkness. And, if you're one of those people that tends to be depressed in the wintertime, it can be really rough.
Yeah.
And then for those folks, I'd look for the beauty, look for, a good photo book.
Yeah. Well,
and so, so it's just that, and that separation, I don't mind it at all. And I like, the Christmas lights and all that kind of stuff. And that whole kind of, there are things for you to look at in the darkness. So
that's interesting. As you're saying this, I'm realizing that this episode will come out will come out before Christmas. And so by the time people listen to this, they'll have this show on their minds or something like that. Maybe not so much, but they'll be moving into Christmas and the holidays and gathering with families and stuff like that. And how I was thinking about this, because I've actually got a family party on Sunday, and being part of the family means I'm going to participate. And then there's this part of me that wants to record it. I'll probably end up bringing my Polaroid camera. I like doing the Polaroids on these kind of special days because, again, we talked about this a zillion times, but I like the artifact of the day, and it slows me down. But for me to be sort of in part of the gathering, part of the event, and how to also sort of step back and record it, and I'm imagining there's gonna be a lot of people doing that this year. I mean, you'll be with your family, so obviously you want to have a good time, and you want to be part of it, and you don't want to just be recording it. But there are these moments, I think family gatherings or something like that are often a great opportunity to take really good photographs, not snapshots. I mean, you can take snapshots, sure, why not? But you were talking about in previous episodes about going out and seeing, your people from your family and your history and photographing them and spending time with them. And so you're actually I don't know if that actually dovetails into what we're talking about, because
what you were just talking about, like from the time I had my darkroom and before, when I had Polaroids as a kid, almost all of our family snapshots and our vernacular work is mine. Really? I was the photographer in the family from age 10, age 11. So many pictures that my sisters and my mother have, and my brother for that matter, were pictures that I took at family occasions like Christmas. The family lined up was like a self-timer thing, because I had an SLR that had a self-timer finally. So all of us could get into the picture,
That's interesting.
So, that resonates for me big time, because that I was the guy that was doing the recording, and,
so you could
burning
also
my fingers on the flash bulb on the, on that
as you try to take it out.
That black and white Polaroid, right? The zip, right?
Yep. But so you're you're part of the family, but you're also the observer as well.
Yeah.
So how was that? I mean,
It was great.
Okay.
I got to play in my hobby. I got a bit of dispensation because I could spend the money on the Polaroids, right?
Okay.
Because I used to have to conserve. We were not a rich family.
Yeah.
So if I could blow a whole pack on a weekend, like on a Christmas week or whatever, you know, it was a big deal. So it was fun, and I was happy to do it. And people love, you know, in those days always, I love Polaroids.
So what recommendation do you have? I mean, recommendation would you have for people? Because well, maybe even for me, right? I have this really hard time like separating myself. What I end up doing actually for me is I end up not doing either of them very well. I'm not very present, and I'm not a good detached recorder, you know, of the event. And so like I'm half-assed doing both of them. And since you seem to have had better experience in that, what would you say is, you know, something to look out for, to something to pay attention to, if you can remember, or if you have any thoughts on that? I'd be curious to hear them.
When I was younger, I couldn't afford to take grab shots or do, you know, anything kind of artistic because it was flash bulbs or whatever. So I was like, okay, everybody, let's get lined up. We'll get the picture. You guys are going to sit on the couch. Okay. We've got these friends over, neighbors are over, whatever. You guys just stay where you are. I'll come and I'll take your picture. So it's an announcement, you know, that I'm going to come around and take everybody's picture. In part because that was kind of, I think, the feeling like, you know, you're taking these snapshots, these group pictures of people. You know, it's not the documentary street stuff I'm doing now at all. It's just like you're announcing it. Okay, I'm taking pictures, and then I put it down. I take the camera, I put it back up in my bedroom, and now I'm having dinner with everybody.
Okay.
I'm off. You know, that's one. But as I got older and more sneaky, then I would just take those pictures like I was shooting a wedding or whatever, and my sisters would make faces, or they wouldn't, or they'd forget I was there, and I would take pictures.
And sitting at the table with your camera wrapped around your shoulder, and like when
I might have done that once or twice when I was younger, but I don't think. No, it was just when there was kind of that dinner party atmosphere before dinner. Yeah. You know, that was a good time to walk around, find an excuse to go get your drink, whatever, knock it back. Go take some pictures of the other people drinking. Yeah. Maybe do a selfie kind of thing. Like I seem to remember doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like
actually, as we're talking about this, I'm remembering, just had Thanksgiving with my brother, and I brought my camera with me, and, you know, we did, so, okay, let's all get, you know, we have to get together and take shots, but I like to take the candid shots too when I can, but that sort of keeps me away from, like, you know, well, geez, then there goes all the shrimp. I didn't get it to eat.
Draw a box around it, eat the shrimp first, and then start on your. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I think there's something, now that I'm thinking about it, it's sort of like time box the thing. I want to be here and present, and I can't do both. I will have the camera for that hour and a half or whatever it is, long enough until you think you got something, put it away.
Put it down. Okay.
Yeah,
because when I look
at, I would do.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. And because I'm looking at the shots that I got that are candids and stuff like that, and they add so much more to the overall, you know, all the phone pictures that we have that everybody shoots, you know, everybody's wrapping their arms around each other and smiling at the camera. And here I am, like, grabbing, you know, a shot of my brother and his kid, you know, from an angle that is not, you know, set up as more of a candid shot. And it just adds some flavor. And that's not even the right word. It just adds some depth to the whole event. But I can't do that all the time. And, like, you know, I'm sitting there like, oh man, at dinner, like sometimes it's the same thing. I'm like, if I don't have my camera with me, I'm like, I'm like, oh man, I missed that shot. Oh, that would be a good shot.
The phone, then, like, have the phone, whatever.
Yeah, but it's not the same. I mean, it's, you know.
No, I know, but you it's better than nothing. Well, I think if you're at the table, well, like the wide angle camera that we have on the iPhone, they take great pictures of dinner tables.
No, right? I get that, but you know, there's some part of me that likes a slight telephoto, so I'm a little bit, you know. Anyway, you know, first world problems here, so it's that kind of thing. But I like your idea of, like, making, you know, a certain amount of time to put pick it up and put it down again. And
then if you have camera shy family members who you feel like they're kind of being humiliated, then sort of like, okay, there's that too. A lot of people just don't like, particularly the older folks. They just don't like the way they look or whatever.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to remind them that it's a memory for the younger kids while you're here.
Right. Right.
And appreciate you who you are now.
I mean, with doing the Polaroids, or in my case, I think I'm going to do Fuji Instax. I have this cool little Instax camera.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm bringing Polaroid too. Actually, I might bring the Polaroid and give that camera to somebody else.
That I2, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Actually, it might be great to give the camera to somebody else or bring one camera and let them take pictures with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, the artifact part of it. I mean, I don't think anybody, that's not true. I'm trying to generalize here. I don't want to generalize. I think I may be one of the few people who thinks of these things as artifacts, then it's important. And many people just don't think about that, about the actual photograph that's been taken on that day. And the thing I like about Polaroids or Instax is that, it's a direct representation of the light. It's not even through a negative. It's almost like a slide. That light is recorded that day. Nobody else really cares about that stuff other than me.
I look at my negatives and I think that bit of acetate was with me on the day.
Right. But you and me, I'm sure people who are listening to the show who've shot film may feel that way, but most people don't really care. And I hear people who want to throw away negatives and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm just sort of going off the beaten track here. So separate but present. Detached but present. Yeah. How do we get from photojournalism to Christmas? I don't know. That was a very interesting sort of
the getting there for the.
Oh yeah.
Taking that point of view into the winter season.
Right. Yeah. And especially with the holiday coming up, I think that would be a good test of this as well. But yeah. Well, okay. I think to be seen. We can follow up on our last episode of the month whenever we're able to do that. Hopefully we have the time to do that at some point for the holidays. Are you doing anything for Christmas?
We're having some of my wife's family over.
Are you going to be recording it or taking pictures?
Yeah, I usually take pictures when anybody's over. Yeah. I'll do that.
Yeah.
I did my mother-in-law's 80th birthday here last year. And that was back in our hometown, so this will be much easier to deal with here. And maybe I'll try out that little flash to do these pictures of our visitors too.
Do you share the pictures too with everybody?
Oh yeah, no, I have a whole family section on my Smug Mug site, and I give people the link. So if you have the link, you can see it. I think I did that when I did an aunt's 80th birthday as well.
Okay,
and I think I sent you the link.
Oh yeah.
That summer I went out on. I was kind of guilted into going out there, and it was fun. And there's an album. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this part up. Any final thoughts about
things and stuff?
Well, yeah, no, what we were just talking about. Let's wrap up this detached yet present part. We went from one thing to another.
Well, I think it's something we should think about and practice. I mean, if you're struggling with it, give yourself an opportunity to think it through and exactly what you're going to do instead of just letting it kind of drag you down and taking away your creativity and or your social enjoyment of being with folks at this time of year.
So being
without folks at this time of year,
being very deliberate in some.
Yeah. Just making yourself aware.
Yeah.
Being present in that way, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a simple man.
Like, if you were, you'd be billing me right now. It'd be like, $75 an hour or something. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It'll be interesting for me this weekend this is Elizabeth's family, and it's a Hanukkah party, and I'm actually looking.
Hanukkah and Christmas line up really well this year, don't they?
Yeah.
They're pretty close.
Within 2 weeks of each other. Or at least I don't actually know the date of Hanukkah, but we're having the party on Sunday.
I think it's later. I want to say it's maybe I'm wrong.
I have to look at the calendar. I don't know. But anyway, we're doing it. We're doing it today because we're doing it on Sunday. This is when everybody's available. So,
Right.
excuse me. So it'll be interesting to see. I'll report back on how that works out. But I guess what I'll do is I'll try to pay more attention to being present and as an observer, and also as an observer. And I think your advice about sort of putting a box around it, it'll be hard to do for me, sometimes, like put the camera down and just be part of the family for a little while, but I'll see how that works out. And I think it'll make the pictures that I do take more precious in some sense, because I won't be over photographing and stuff like that. But I do think I'll give somebody a camera to play with. That way I've got like sort of a second shooter.
Yeah.
And
I think there'll be natural times in the evening or the day where it'll be better to take pictures when things are more loose.
Yeah.
When everyone's sitting down to dinner, particularly if it's high holiday dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. All right, cool. Well, great. I think that's it for now for this. Yeah. We have one with this is the penultimate show of the year.
Penultimate show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of pens, no. This is not the. Yeah, never mind.
That's your other podcast?
That's my other podcast. I should do a podcast on just pens. Yeah. But boy, that would get a lot of attention. Yeah, sure. Anyway. All right, cool. So where is the world looking for you these days? And go ahead. I want to.
No.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
No, I want to hear where you're going to be found first, and then I have something to say.
Where I'm going to be found, I'm on X and Vero at W Rosin Photo. Instagram, I'm at Ward Rosin Fine Art.
Mm-hmm.
That's WARDROSIN Fine Art. On Facebook, I'm Ward Rosin Photo. My website is rosin.ca, and our unofficial sponsor, who can't deliver from Canada Post. I'm sorry. That's a whole other thing.
Yep.
That's Ornis Photo, ORNIS.photo. And I appreciate everyone coming and looking at the product, and been fielding questions from folks, and I really appreciate that.
Just hang in there.
Hang in there. I got to just hang in there.
Yeah.
So Antonio,
well, wait. So how come you're not on Blue Sky yet?
Because I use X a lot for news, actually.
Right, but get on Blue Sky. A lot of photographers are moving there. I think that's sign up. Get your rosin. At least get your name up there.
All right.
You sound so reluctant. I can't.
Another. Well, X, I don't use it. I only use it for breaking news and my artist friends. But yeah, it's become.
I think there's a
not
good.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I also think there's a good community of photographers that are blooming on Blue Sky, and they have some features on there for following people that makes it's a little bit different than X. So I would check it out. But
all right.
Yeah. Anyway, where am I going to find me? On Blue Sky, it's at AM Rosario. My IG account is at AM Rosario Photo. My website is amrosario.com. Facebook is Rosario Photo. And let's see, I was just scrolling down. So go to our Substack. We've been getting subscribers, and I've got a newsletter. It's in draft. I just haven't done it yet because I've been showing Angie around New York City. So,
and how about I promise that I'll write a Substack article about my experiences in Japan.
Yeah. Okay. So,
and whatever kind of artwork's going to come out of that.
Cool.
Hoping it's zines or a book.
Yep. So that is streetshots.substack.com. So yeah, subscribe to us. And, leave us a voicemail and yell at us about the area code thing at speakpipe.com/streetshots. And if you want to support the show financially, you could buy me a coffee, or buy us a coffee, I should say, at buymeacoffee.com/Antonio Rosario. And yeah, we could, I love when someone, throws us a few little, chump change and feel like I can say, the show is sponsored by... So yeah. So anyway, that's it. I'm getting pokey here, but it was great hanging out with you tonight, Ward. Appreciate it.
As always, a pleasure.
Yeah. And everybody, also you, Ward, have a great holiday, whatever you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate,
I will.
Celebrate some other way. Yeah.
You and yours too, my friend.
Thank you. And we'll see you at the end of the year. And soon it'll be the new year. And here we go again. So, okay.
That's how it goes.
Alrighty. Take care, man.
Good night.